Well, hello everyone. This is Cindy Kuhl and Joyce Nichols. Thank you for joining our third webinar in our three-part series for this particular time. Today's topic is the 5 tips to keep ACT running worry-free. We have got some great things to show you this morning. We want to be able to answer these questions for you in just a short 20-minute webinar and make sure you can answer these questions yourself. Is your database really being backed up? Why are your emails not being recorded? Why are you not having the ACT icons in your Outlook email? How do you manage your duplicate records? And a question we get so many times is, why won't my database open? So Joyce is going to be showing you in this 20 minutes these questions, or how you can answer these questions yourself and make sure your database is running smoothly. Again, if you would post anything in the questions box you've got questions about that Joyce is showing you in a moment, we'll definitely, if we have time at the end of the webinar, answer those, or we'll definitely get back to you via email with answers to those questions as we finish our webinar. Again, thank you for joining us. We've had great response for our webinars. We hope to continue to do this in the future. So again, continue to watch for emails from us. So Joyce, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Cindy. The most important tip that I think you're going to hear today is your database really being backed up? We're going to answer that question. We have had, this is interesting that this topic is, we're presenting this topic today. In the last 2 weeks, we have had 3 clients whose computers have crashed and they were not able to restore their ACT database because they really didn't back it up correctly. They thought it was being backed up. ACT is a database that is attached to Microsoft SQL. Most server backup programs cannot back up SQL-attached files. So ACT provides what's called the ACT Scheduler. It's a service that runs outside of ACT, and what it does is it creates a backup of ACT and creates a zip file, and then your server backup program can back up that zip file. So let me show you how to set up the ACT Scheduler. I strongly recommend that this be set up on the server. It can be set up on a workstation, but best practice is to set up the ACT Scheduler on a server. Tools, ACT Scheduler. We are going to create a task. Now there's 2 tasks that I recommend that you set up. The first is to create a backup of your database. Obviously that's the most important. I'm going to click Create a Task, browse to the database, and choose Open. Enter the username of the database, the admin username, and password if necessary, and click Next. The first task that needs to be set up is your database backup. Next. You'll then browse to the location where your IT company wants the backup to be. So you'll click to the browse location, create a new folder if necessary. Be sure that you have a check mark in Include Attachments because you wouldn't want to miss your attachments. Next, ACT default is to keep the last 5 backups, which is a week's worth. If you decide you want more than that, then you can easily change that number. Next. Now the backup should be set daily. Again, you can set it hourly, and most people set it daily. And if you're running a nightly backup service, what I recommend is setting the backup to run prior to the server backup program. So you'd fill out the start time. If you would like to be notified that the backup was completed, then you can enter your email address and receive those notifications in your email. And then click Finish. Now, the second task that you could set up is to run database maintenance. And we strongly recommend that to set that up on a weekly basis. And what that's going to do is to check and repair your database. If that has not been done in the past, you should find a definite increase in speed and just function of the database if that is set up. And you set up the database maintenance in the same manner. One thing I'd like to point out is we have found that people the Act Scheduler has been set up to run backups, but it's really not running backups. And how can that happen? The admin user is the person who usually sets the Act Scheduler. But if the admin user leaves the company, their user becomes inactive, then the scheduler cannot run. So what some of our clients choose to do is to purchase an extra license just for an admin user. And then the username would be admin, and that avoids that problem. So once you have your Act schedule.
One thing I was going to mention, Joyce, too, just before you leave this particular topic, I just want to make sure just to address the issue of, even though this has been set up, sometimes these settings can get lost. So if you would just address that too, please.
Okay, all righty. So once you are set up, your Act Scheduler is set up, then you can just exit. And then what you'll see is down in the notification area, down in my lower right-hand corner, if you click on the Show Hidden Icons, you'll see the Act Scheduler is running. So the reason that I recommend setting this up on the server and not the workstation, the reason why is that if you have a workstation, sometimes these can get wiped out through various updates. So if you choose to set it up on a workstation, what I recommend is just frequently right-clicking, open Act Scheduler, just take a look that your backup and your database maintenance are there, choose Exit. And if you find that they are missing, then you'll just reset them again. I haven't seen that happen on a server, but definitely if you're using the Act Scheduler on the workstation, that's important. Now the scheduler is a service that runs outside of Act, so Act does not have to be open. It will run even if Act is closed. The computer has to be on, but the Act does not have to be open. Second topic, why aren't my emails being recorded? That's probably the most frequent call that we get is about emails. You're sending emails, again, that's one of the great things with Act is that you can integrate your emails with the database. So the first thing I do is to check my first troubleshooting and why aren't my emails being recorded. First thing I do is I click Tools, Preferences, and I click on the Email and Outlook Sync tab to make sure the integration has been set up. If I see the database listed, then I know that Act, as far as Act is concerned, the integration has been set up. So the second thing I do is I go to Outlook and I look for the AddIns tab. If the AddIns tab is not viewed, if it's not visible, then I know what has happened is the add-in, the Act add-in for Outlook has become blocked. That can happen through Microsoft updates and your antivirus. So if you click the File menu, Manage Add-ins, right here, Act Outlook Add-in, always enable this add-in. I'm going to click that, choose Close. Now you'll see that I have my Add-ins tab. I click on the Add-ins tab and I see my Act icon. Now, one of the things I said was I immediately look to see if there's an Add-ins tab. And if there's no Add-ins tab, then I know that the add-in has been disabled. But I want you to know that some of you runs a software called GoToMeeting, which is what I have. GoToMeeting is an add-in. So the Add-ins tab might be visible, but it always, if you go to there, it could be that maybe just another type of add-in is there, but your Act icon is not. So again, these are the icons that you want to look for. The third thing I check for is I check the history queue. What happens is when you send an email from Outlook, Act looks for a matching email address, and if it finds it, then it attaches the email. If it doesn't find the email, you've told Act to attach it, so Act keeps trying to attach that email, and it builds up into what's called a history queue. That can slow down your system, and it can also get so full that it just eventually breaks and none of your emails can record. I bet that each one of you will find down in your system tray this icon. It is an envelope with a stop sign in front of it. I have my computer set so I'm viewing it, but the majority of you will have to click Show Hidden Icons, and you'll find the icon up in this area. If there's no icon, that's good. The icon only displays if there are emails that are trying to attach. So let's take a look at the history queue. I'm going to right-click, Show Progress. The tab that you want to focus on is this Not Attached Messages. You might find hundreds of emails in here that we're not able to attach. What I do is I click the two, that way they're sorted. So you'll find emails that they really don't need to be attached. You might have numerous ones that don't need to be attached. So you can click the first one and then hold down the Shift key, click the last one, and easily remove those by clicking the Remove button. In this example, Bill is a client that I need to keep track of his emails. So there's basically three reasons why emails aren't attaching. There is no contact in ACT. The contact is there, but the email address is missing, or the email address is incorrect in the contact record, or possibly you are sending to a home address, a personal email address, but in the contact records you have a work email address. So let's troubleshoot why Bill Willis's emails aren't recording. So I'm going to click back to ACT, and I'm going to look up Bill Willis. I can easily see that Bill does not have an email address. That's why the email wasn't recording. So I'm going to just drag through, and I'm going to copy and then paste. Now I'm going to click on Bill's email address, retry attach, and that email address, once you retry attach, that email address will then be attached. There are times when you want to manually attach an email to a client. Ruth Schickel is not a client in my database. She's associated with a client in the database. So I want to manually attach Ruth's email address to Lance Parker. So I'm just going to click on the Attach to ACT Contact, and I'm going to search for Lance Parker, choose OK, and now that email is manually attached to Lance Parker's email address. So again, 3 reasons why your emails are not being recorded. It could be that the ACT is not set up, your Outlook add-in is disabled, and also then monitor your history queue. And again, I would do that at least on a weekly basis. The fourth tip, how do you manage duplicates? It's easy to get duplicates. A lot of times just from an import we can get duplicates in our database. How does ACT know what a duplicate is? That is set in Preferences, Tools, Preferences, Admin, Duplicate Checking. And again, it's really important not to have duplicate records in your database because, you know, people post histories, opportunities on, maybe there's 2 Joyce Nichols. So, you know, those posted on different records and it's hard for your reporting. Again, you always want to have just one contact record in a database. Enable duplicate checking needs to be checked for duplicate checking to be applied. There are 3 different entity types that you can set duplicate checking. So in my company, If the company, contact, and phone are the same, then that constitutes a duplicate. So when a user enters and they all are the same, then they're going to get the message that a duplicate record exists. And again, this is totally dependent on what you consider a duplicate. But that is under Tools, Preferences, Admin. So once you've established that, under the Tools menu, Scan for duplicates. Again, you can change these parameters. What I like to do is I will scan for duplicates on these parameters. Then I'll clean those up, and then I'll go back and I'll scan for duplicates, and I'll change these to maybe the contact, address 1, phone, and typically I'll get different results. Well, I see that I have duplicates in this database. So I'm looking at William Buckley. Well, it looks like that everything is the same, so I want to combine the records. You can do that within ACT. So I'm going to click Yes, and that invokes the Copy, Move, Contact Data Wizard. I'm going to choose William Buckley and click Next. You have a source contact and you have a target contact. So again, which is the most complete contact? You can decide, which you want to have as your target. I'm just going to show you a couple things here because the wizard is pretty self-explanatory as you just walk through. I'm going to look down through all of the values here. So this is what I'm going to end up with. This is the contact I'm going to delete. Well, I'm missing William's email address. So I'm going to click and choose Copy. So again, with ACT, you're not going to be missing anything. Here's an email. I'm going to copy. Well, I'll go through all of the fields and check to make sure there's nothing I'm missing. When I click Next, again, with ACT, you won't delete anything. This is a default, so all of the items will be combined into the target record. And then I'll just click Next and finish out the wizard. Now, most of the time when you first run duplicate checking, you may have a lot of records to combine, hundreds. This is a time-consuming method if you're doing hundreds. There is a utility that we use a lot and a lot of our clients use. It's called Duplicate Wizard, and we'd be glad to give you more information on it and order that for you if you're interested. Just going to show you a screenshot of that. What Duplicate Wizard allows you to do is search up on 6 different fields what is a duplicate, what constitutes a duplicate. You also can apply what's called fuzzy matching. So what that means is, let's say that possibly a street is S-T-R-E-E-T on one contact record, but on another it's S-T-R. Duplicate Wizard would find both of those as a duplicate, so that's an example of fuzzy matching. Avenue, AVE, ACT, within the ACT program, it doesn't do fuzzy matching. The Duplicate Wizard does. Another very frequent call we get is, my database won't open. My database won't open. And that's the last tip. With Windows 10, what we're seeing a lot of is when people try to open their database, they'll get the message that the SQL is not running and the database can't be opened. And I see several of you on the call that I've already worked with you on this. And this is from a Windows 10 and a Microsoft. So there is a KB article. It's KB 30854. That will tell you how to manually start SQL. Also at the bottom of this KB article, there is a batch file that you can download and install on a computer, and that will eliminate that error completely. So the batch file is here, and then the instructions of how to download and install that are located above. And again, that's KB article 30854. Cindy?
Wonderful. Thanks, Joyce. I know there's a lot of information there you shared with us, and thank you so much for doing this. But we just hopefully you've found these are some of the common questions that we get probably on a daily, if not weekly basis. And we just thought it'd be helpful for you to be aware of these things. Again, as Joyce mentioned right at the very beginning of the webinar, the most important thing that we find a lot, and I feel so bad, is when people call us up and say, my computer has crashed, can I get my ACT database? And sometimes we can and sometimes we can't. So if nothing else, I hope you will check your settings to make sure your scheduler is running, whether you are a small business or you're running a larger corporation and you've got it on your server. Just always check that scheduler, make sure it is running, make sure backups are being done, and that will save you a lot of headache in the future. So again, I appreciate that, Joyce. Hopefully this was helpful for you. Again, quick and easy, quick and short for you. Joyce, if you want to bring up that very last slide for us in PowerPoint, we do want to make sure you have our contact information. We are here to help you any way that we possibly can. So please feel free to reach out to us. We have our email addresses there, our website. Please feel free to contact us any way that we can help you keep your ACT running worry-free is what we want to do for you. And again, look for future webinars we'll be having later on in the summer and into the fall. And again, thank you for joining us and have a great day. Goodbye.